Mr. Barbieri, your microphone is not on.
Sorry, I had a little problem with the microphone. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, the board will participate in 2 workshops. The first one is a budget update, and the second is an update from the reopening task force. Following that, we have a special meeting. All 3 will be conducted using Google Meet technology for board members and staff who are participating live. Viewers and listeners can access the meetings today by either watching on Comcast channel 235 or by using the YouTube link on our webpage at palmbeachschools.org. We also offer a listening-only option, which the public can access by calling 561-357-5900 or toll-free at 1-866-930-7015. The meeting ID is 1-561-880-1124, the hashtag. I now call the workshop to order. Mrs. Bass, will you please call the roll?
Yes. District 1, Barbara McQuinn.
Here.
District 2, Chuck Shaw.
Here.
District 3, Karen Brill.
Here.
District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
Here.
Great, we have all 7 board members present, so we have quorum. Also joining us today is Superintendent Dr. Donald Fenoy, General Counsel Julianne Rico, Inspector General Teresa Michael, and Board Clerk Carol Bass. Senior staff members will join us periodically as directed by the superintendent. The meeting is being transcribed by a closed captioner, so remember to speak at a reasonable pace. Now please direct your attention to the flag on the screen. As soon as the flag appears, Dr. Fenoy, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Fenoy. A quick review of our meeting protocol. Remember, if you are not speaking, your microphone should be on mute. If you need to step away from the meeting for a moment, please turn off your camera. This will let me know that you've stepped away, although for the public's information, when a board member's camera is off, they are still present in the meeting and they can hear and see what's happening. I will now turn the workshop over to you, Dr. Fenoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first workshop today will be presented by our Chief Finance Officer, Mr. Mike Burke, and his team. At this time, Mr. Burke, I will turn it over to you and your team to present the FY21 budget workshop to the board and the community.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Today's budget workshop, our purpose is really, we've got two components. First, we want to update the board on a couple of recent developments at the state level that impact our operating budget. The governor has approved the budget, so we've nailed that down, along with some significant legislation related to the teacher salary increase to raise the starting salary, and the FRS rates, they were approved as well. So we're going to have 2 parts for you. I'm joined today by Ms. Heather Knust, our budget director. She's going to give you a quick update on the general fund budget, and then we're going to turn it over to Ms. Leanne Evans, our treasurer, to go through the capital budget. Both budgets are balanced at this point, which is very good. And they also, both budget recommendations had the support of your budget advisory committee, which puts us in a good position. We're marching along through our annual process that's highly regulated by the truth and millage requirements. So we'll be coming to the board on July 29th for a public hearing to seek your approval on both the budget and the millage tax rates. So this is the last workshop before that first public hearing. We'll have a second public hearing in September and likely probably another workshop in August to get deeper into the capital plan. This capital plan today addresses FY21. We will be bringing back to the board a complete 10-year plan of the capital budget. So that's what we plan to spend some time on in August with you. But again, at this point, we're in good shape. Budget's balanced, and I am going to turn it over to Ms. Heather Knust to provide her updates first. We got the topics on the screen. I think I covered that. So Ms. Knust, why don't you jump right into the state funding updates?
Okay, so I want to start with, since our last meeting, Governor DeSantis formally signed into law the FEFP budget. And he also signed last Monday on June 29th, the increase in the FRS rates. So that 1.5% increase represents $15.5 million for our district. We mentioned at the last meeting as well that there wasn't expected to be a special session, and the governor was expected to do some line item vetoes. The FEFP budget cannot have any line item vetoes, but there are certain components that are included somewhat in the FEFP calculation that were vetoed. And that the most significant was the school recognition program, and that represents a loss to our district of $11 million. Another line item veto from the governor was with the Aaron Fleiss Guardian Program. We didn't get any money directly for that, but the charter schools did use the training program for the guardians in order to help offset some of their costs. Next slide. Two bills that were signed prior to the sign off of the FEFP on June 29th was expansion of the Family Empowerment Scholarship. And with that expansion, it's pretty significant. The increase in the number of students that are eligible or scholarships that are available is nearly 30,000. So the projected increase or possible estimated increase to our district is an increase of 1,000 students that may be able to access those FES vouchers. In addition to expanding the Family Empowerment Scholarship, they also signed into law the Teacher Salary Increase Allocation. So that teacher salary increase allocation is the $500 million investment that the governor has been talking about, primarily to increase the base minimum teacher pay to $47,500. There's two components of the $500 million. 80% of the money is used to do whatever districts can in order to try to increase that base pay as close as they can to $47,500 as possible. If there's any remaining, that amount remaining, along with 20%, can then be used for other teachers that didn't benefit from increasing the salary to the $47,500, as well as those that only had a very small increase in their pay in result of increasing to $47,500, and also any other instructional personnel. Because increasing the program to increase the minimum pay to $47,500 is specific for full-time classroom teachers. So those providing direct instruction. So in our district, 80% of our funding equates to $25 million. And when we first ran this analysis back in February, we were close to the $47,500, but we weren't exactly there. But after we reran the numbers, after we've processed all the salary adjustments, we are able to increase everybody with the 80% to $47,500 and have approximately $4.6 million left over. So there are approximately 5,000 teachers will see an increase to that $47,500, but those increases range from $18 is the lowest, less than 0.1% of an increase, all the way up to $6,500, an increase of 15.85%. And so then we have the 20% component. So the 20% component, the amount remaining is $6.3 million. That plus the amount remaining from the 80% leaves a total amount available of $10 million, almost $11 million for those teachers that, like I said, that didn't benefit from increasing up to $47,500, as well as those, like the example that I gave of the person only receiving an $18 raise. Since it's less than 2%, they would also be able to be included within that 20%. And so we will, as a district, have to work with CTA to negotiate how those allocations will be made. Next slide. And so looking at our FEFP budget that was approved by the governor, we have a total increase in revenue of $54.8 million. But we have to back out what I talked about, increased growth in the FEF scholarships, as well as increased growth potentially in charter schools. We also, in this economic environment, do not expect to have as high of interest earnings as we've had in the past, and also same amount of prior period tax collections as well. So after we make those adjustments of revenue, we're looking at an adjusted revenue of $28 million. We then have to back out the increase in the FRS of the $15.5 million. And then what's interesting with the teacher compensation program is it's an increase for district operated schools of 31.7 million. But the state is, in a sense, kind of funding that program by eliminating the school recognition program, which I mentioned, and also the Best and Brightest program. So the increase that we're seeing is actually only an increase of $3 million. Once you take into consideration the teacher compensation program and then eliminating the Best and Brightest in the school recognition program. And since we're seeing an increase in revenue, total revenue, we also have to increase the contingency in order to remain in compliance with board policy. And then after making all those adjustments, the amount we have remaining is $3.7 million. So that $3.7 million was placed into the reserve for state funding reductions. That will be included and added to the reserve that was set aside by the adjustments that we made within the departments, the $18 million across the general and capital maintenance transfer, and any savings that we have generated from the FY20 year, which we're currently closing out. But as a result of the hiring spending freeze that we put in place in FY20, we expect to have over $20 million that we will also be able to add to that reserve as well. So with that, our FY21 budget is balanced. Next slide. And moving on to our property values, the preliminary taxable values have been released. We're looking at approximately a 5% increase in property values. The increase in property values is starting to slow. As we've mentioned, we don't expect to have an impact in FY21 to the amount of property tax, to the property tax values. And we could have some minor impact with our collections, but we can't necessarily say that that's going to hold true when we start looking at FY22. But at least looking at FY21, since the property valuations are set really starting in January, and collections will be primarily in November, December timeframe, we don't expect to have much of an impact from this economic downturn in the FY21 year. So with the preliminary taxable values, we had a slight increase from what the EDR originally predicted. And so we had a slight increase of $258,000, which is included in those numbers that I just reported on the last slide. And then that's in the general fund. And then within the capital projects fund, there was an increase of $1.2 million as a result of the preliminary taxable values. And so with that, I am going to pass it over to Ms. Evans to get into more detail on the capital budget.
If you hold a minute, Ms. Evans, board members, I've been advised that the YouTube link is down, and General Counsel, can we continue the meeting when we're not online for the public?
No, it needs to be fixed and resolved so that access to the public has been provided. So I don't know what the status is. I'm just being told by other members of the public that it's not being accessed. So maybe someone else can tell us that. But we should pause until it's resolved so members of the public can have clear access.
All right, so board members, I'll keep track of what's happening through the board office. I've been in contact with Mrs. Bass, so we'll just pause the meeting temporarily until we're sure that that we're back online on YouTube. Dr. Fenoy, do you have any comments on that? Is it okay with you?
Yes, sir. I'm perfectly fine with that.
All right. So we're going to pause until we're back on. So if you want to turn your cameras off temporarily, I'll let you know as soon as we're back on. Thank you.